Welcome back to the History of Rock. His name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He is the rock star. Class is in session as we're rolling through Woodstock 99. I think we can knock this out here, and we can finish this thing up in this episode. So we're going to do that. We're going to dive right in.
Going to be a lot of value in this episode. Where did we leave off?
We wrapped up basically on Friday, and now we're picking up on Saturday, and Kid Rock performed on Saturday, and I still remember this. The dude came out in a big white fur fucking coat, and it was like 100. Yeah. It was like 100 degrees out that day.
Yeah, I remember him. It was one of the first times that I saw someone walk out. He walks out with the coat, with the cane and the hat, and then he walks around. He looks around, and I'm thinking like, oh, cool. That's his. He doesn't do anything except walk around, and then eventually take the stuff off, and then hand it to some guy. They walk away, and I'm like, that's it. You're not even going to sing the song wearing it? And then he takes a pose. He does that thing where he's like, and I was like, all right, it's your shtick. My name is Kid. I was like, and the drop on Bati Waba, fuck, man. That is a
wait. On what?
On Bati Waba. Bati Waba? Batbaba? I don't know. No one knows what that fucking song is called.
It's called Bawata Ba.
Is it Bawata Ba? Bati Waba. Bati Boom Boom. Skiddly Dat Dat Skiboom.
Okay, so but you mentioned last episode is that Kid Rock didn't make it down in Australia. Like he didn't translate down there.
Nope. No, here's the thing. Limp Bizkit Korn blew up. Big time. Limp Bizkit, boom. Kid Rock followed the trend, right? Of having hip hop and rock. And then all Kid Rock did was introduce a country element into it. So it was like country rock with hip hop stuff.
But in the beginning, he was really almost I don't want to say strictly hip hop. But I mean, he had been around a long time before. Was the album Devil Without a Cause? Am I remembering that?
Yeah, Devil Without a Cause is the big one.
That was the one that had Bawita Bar or whatever the fuck you call it. Whatever the hell you call it.
Batiwaba.
Baklava. Yeah,
I'm going to call it Baklava.
That was his fourth studio album. And I still remember, so that one obviously blew up. And that blew up, right there. Like it was my first year right after high school. And I remember when I gained a ton of respect for Kid Rock was when it was an MTV thing where they were doing the whole Find a VJ thing where they did this contest. And it was like, they were doing these auditions for these VJs, and this weird kid named Jesse Camp ended up winning it. But then they brought in Dave Holmes, who was this other guy who was like a professional, like actual DJ. And he was just better at the job. It's just this Jesse kid was fucking weird. And people were like, oh, I'm going to vote for him. And Kid Rock performed while they were there in like Times Square. And I remember watching him, and he went and sang, then he went and played guitar, and then he went and played the drums, and then he went and jumped on the turntables. And I was like, son of a bitch, like that guy's got it. I was impressed. I was very impressed.
Yeah. In Australia, we didn't catch any of that stuff. All we caught was Devil Without a Cause, and it was I'm Going to Be a Cowboy Baby, which was one of the big ones. Batiwaba didn't make the radio here, but whatever the fucking song, Baklava, didn't make the radio. And it was actually a little bit of a weird conversation thing where it was like, it was a point of contention in high school, but they were like, you listen to Kid Rock, what's the matter with you? You fucking, you American with all the cowboy shit? And it was like, but if you had a brain, you'd be like, well, Limp Bizkit is fucking skater nu metal rock. Like it's just as American. It's just from California instead of what, fucking Mississippi or wherever or Detroit.
God damn it. Kid Rock was from Detroit. Limp Bizkit was from Jacksonville, for fuck's sake.
But here's my point, though. In Australia, we don't know any of that shit and we don't care. We just see a cowboy hat versus a red hat and we go, well, one's street and one's cowboy. We do street and skateboarding in Australia. We don't have cowboys in the city in Australia anyway. So that's why people find it so funny when they're like, why didn't this band make it there? Why didn't this TV series make it there? Because there are certain things that if there is enough America in it, it's too much for Australia. We're like, well, we don't get Westerns. We don't get cowboy references, like, unless it's a Clint Eastwood movie. Like, we don't get that stuff. We don't, like, Tiger King? Fucking what? Did I just freeze? Did my video freeze for a second, or was that me? Yeah. Tiger King, we watched it.
It froze when you were saying Tiger King.
Yeah. What? Anyway, let's go back to what we were talking about. The big story from Saturday. Let's talk about the big story from Saturday. Did you actually freeze on that face? Look, how did you do that? That was really good.
Like that?
Fucking. Okay, now I'm jealous. All right.
Look. there's a lot of things in my life that I tune the fuck out, like barking dogs and shit like that. I can daze off
on a whim.
like
on a fucking random night.
It's nothing.
Nothing.
It's just nothing but ocean waves in my head as the dogs are fucking yapping at something outside. Anyway, go ahead. So the big story.
The big story from Saturday. The big story from Saturday was obviously Limp Bizkit. One major problem, though, is that after the weekend, news stations would play footage of Limp Bizkit intertwined with the fires from Sunday, making it seem like Limp Bizkit was responsible for Sunday night's riots.
Yeah, and it's something that just, it goes to show you that, and of course there's a lot of people who are like, oh, the news is always propaganda, it's this and this and this, and however you want to look at that shit. No, they try to do the shit based on ratings. Like, that's all they're trying to do. Yeah. And if they can, make something look bigger than it was, they're going to fucking do that. So almost all of Limp Bizkit's set was call and response. Like, it's Fred's working that fucking crowd, man. Like, go watch their full set, and he worked it to a fucking T. So one big thing that has been pointed out during Limp Bizkit's set was the sound tower that had the Alamo sign on it, because it was like the last stand of the Alamo, because they were tearing off the plywood and shit. Usually this is made to look like they made the sign as Limp Bizkit was playing Break Stuff and the plywood was being torn down. That wasn't the case. As I watched Limp Bizkit's entire set, plywood had already been ripped off and the sign was up before Break Stuff. Now, maybe that stuff was because Limp Bizkit, their Break Stuff was kind of towards the middle-ish end of their set. So, who knows how soon that stuff was up? But they make it seem like, it was because of Limp Bizkit. And
hold on, let me ask you. I need to clarify. They put up a sign, said the Alamo on it. Is that right?
Yeah, the people in the
I don't understand that.
So the Alamo in San Antonio, it's like the last stand where you had like Davy Crockett and these other Americans who were trying to hold the Alamo, and they just got overrun by Mexicans and got the shit kicked out of them.
And why did they put that sign on the
Because they felt like they were being overrun by the crowd.
At that point, they actually, wow, okay.
And so this was Saturday.
Okay, cool.
And so I don't know exactly when that went up, but it was there before the song Break Stuff. Now, for all I know, it had gone up 2 minutes before that. I don't know.
Right.
Because you can see that there are already pieces of plywood that have been ripped off of this sound tower before Break Stuff starts. They try to make it look like, well, Break Stuff was the song where everybody just started breaking stuff. And it's like, well, no, they were breaking shit before that. Like, that was already a thing. So, not to be like that's some sort of fucking excuse for it. I'm just pointing that out.
But Jonathan Davies and Fieldy from Korn, Kid Rock.
Oh my God! Say his name.
What, Fieldy or Jonathan Davis?
Davis. You're like Jonathan Davies.
I'll get fucked. That's how we say it here. Jonathan Davis or Davies. That's what we say, Jonathan Davis. Oh my God, I'm so sorry I offended your delicate sensibilities.
God, say it fucking
Kid Rock, but here's the thing. I got a question. It says here that P. Diddy were all on the side of stage for Limp Bizkit set. Was P. Diddy, I don't know P. Diddy played. How many of these fucking pop acts played Woodstock?
No, P. Diddy did not. He was just there, hanging out.
Okay.
At least I don't think. Let me double check that really quick.
Okay.
But I don't think he performed. I know the DMX. So
anyway, they were all on the side of the stage for Limp Bizkit set, along with Vern Troyer, Mini-Me from Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, hold on one sec here. I'm going to look and see if, cause I don't think. No, P. Diddy did not perform. He was just there to see him. He was just hanging out.
Yeah. But have you ever gotten to go ahead with this? Mini-Me from Austin Powers. Tell me about that.
I met that dude. We had a festival down in Florida, and it was some sort of like horror festival where they'd bring, or not festival, convention. And they brought Vern Troyer in because he was Mini-Me, and then they also had this other little person actor who was in Bordello of Blood. So, as we were getting ready to leave, we're there at the radio station, and Vern Troyer was there. We're like, oh, it'd be really fucking cool to meet Vern Troyer. Like, they had some other big name act, like Sid Haig, who played Captain Spaulding in House of a Thousand Corpses. He was there. The dude that was in the original Creature from the Black Lagoon, like in the outfit, he was there. Yeah. So we go to meet Vern Troyer, and it's going to kill me until I figure out this guy's fucking name because he deserves to be mentioned properly.
The guy that played Mini-Me from Austin Powers?
No, that's Vern Troyer. The guy that I'm talking about is, of course, he's not going to show up right here. Phil Fundacaro was his name. And so the way that they would get around the hotel, because the convention was actually inside the hotel's convention center, was they just put him on a luggage cart and just pushed him around. Because they were like Vern couldn't really walk, and Phil Fondacaro is a little guy, so they just kind of pushed him around on that. And then when we went to go meet them, the handler for Vern Troyer said, he goes, "You can shake his hand, but do not squeeze, you'll break it." Because he was so fragile because of his condition. His bones were so brittle. They're like, you can shake it, but don't squeeze because you will break his hand.
Dude.
Yeah. And he was a cool dude.
Wow.
So, and it's funny because you can see them. He's up there. Vern Troyer's up there fucking rocking out to Limp Bizkit and shit.
Jesus Christ.
So at 26 minutes into their set, Durst says, "One thing I'm not seeing here." And then there's a long pause, and then you just kind of hear him go, "Okay, I won't say that." So you're assuming he's going to be like boobs. Like, one thing is I'm not seeing enough boobs. And so I think by this point, 26 minutes into Limp Bizkit's set, I think they're already in his ear letting him know, hey, stuff is kind of getting out of control. Can you help us contain it a little bit? Because he does mention throughout most of the set, hey, like, he doesn't necessarily say you need to mellow out, but they're saying calm down, but you're here to have fun. Like, you can see he's struggling with that. Because you can tell they're in his ear telling him, you need to do this, but then he's also thinking, we're here to fucking rock out. So why would I tell them to chill the fuck out,
Yeah.
But I don't know if he knew the magnitude of the stuff that was obviously going on.
See, it's funny. I haven't watched that. I've never watched that whole set from the beginning. I've never gotten to that part because of the feedback. I've watched like break stuff as a clip, and then like the first couple of songs, but I've never watched the whole thing in its entirety.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to get through. But go ahead and pick up the next one here. Yeah.
So at 43 minutes into Limp Bizkit's set, Durst starts a "fuck Limp Bizkit" chant. At this point, they actually cut off his microphone. After almost 2 minutes, Fred tries to go into Nookie, and Wes Borland even plays the opening riff, but Durst promptly stops him by saying, "That fucking mic ain't working. Don't play that shit, Wes."
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, they're shutting him down at this point.
He's walking around. And he's like, "Can you hear me?" And it sounds fine on the recording because it's picking up his microphone directly through that board.
But it's not going through the speakers.
And I guess you can see the people are like, "No," and he's like, "You can't hear me," and it's kind of awkward for almost 2 full fucking minutes. And then he mentions going into Nookie, and then you hear the like the beginning of Nookie, and he's like, he tells Wes to stop because they can't fucking hear him. So right after this is when Limp Bizkit's manager comes up to him. He whispers something in Fred's ear. Not sure what it was. And then he kind of doesn't even acknowledge it. Durst doesn't. And then he goes right into Nookie.
Okay.
Like, it's like,
this is interesting, yeah.
So at these times, if you guys want to, anybody tuning into this podcast, go to those times where you can go to 26 minutes where he's like, "I'm not seeing enough of it." He's like, "Okay, I won't say that." Or you go to 43 minutes and you can see the struggle of where they've cut off his mic and shit.
Jesus. So Limp Bizkit never did anything wrong. They actually were pulling back on because he was known for inciting, not violence, but inciting pretty heavy action from a crowd.
I don't think, like, you can tell that he was struggling with what to do because, again, like I said, their whole set's call and response. It's, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna say something. You fucking do it, or I'm gonna say something. Like the fuck Limp Bizkit is what he was doing, and then there's like nothing from the crowd. Yeah,
come on.
So I mean, it's
a lot was made. So a lot was made of Fred ending up on one of the pieces of plywood that came from the sound tower. Before this, he talked about getting to a smaller setup to his left, out in the crowd. He wanted to get out there for Faith to perform the song in the middle of the crowd. The plywood would have to do, though, and that is the infamous shot that every news outlet around the world ran with, which was like, he is the god figure that told the audience to break stuff, and he's standing on top of his broken stuff throne as he is wheeled around like a god. And that was all anyone fucking paid attention to.
But he didn't. So when he got on the plywood, he didn't move. You can see his security team holding that fucking piece of plywood and him back to make sure that they don't shuttle his ass out there. Like, you can even see the one security guy's ass, like, the whole time, because they're holding him back. It's like a chain of people making sure he does not end up out there. So you had, in the crowd, you've got the sound tower, the big sound tower with the Alamo sign on it. And then a little bit out, I would say maybe 20 yards or so, there's a smaller little setup right there with some speakers and stuff on it. He wanted to get to that. Because at one point, if you go watch the full set, he's like, I want to get over there. He says it on the mic. He's like, I want to get over there. But then I think they realize there's no fucking way we can safely get him there. So
he's going to get eaten. Yeah.
So then you see the plywood coming over, and before he had said, that's some cool shit, and then they bring one over, and then he can finally start actually, surfing on the piece of plywood. So on the Woodstock 99 Wikipedia page, it says, partway through Break Stuff, Durst encouraged the crowd to become angry. And I put a note here, well, no shit. The song is called Break Stuff. And the previous Durst quote, I think it was something else that I fucking deleted. But yeah, no, it was like, well, yeah, the song is called fucking Break Stuff. It's like Rage Against the Machine, don't, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. It's like, and then I told them to not listen to what you were doing. And it's like, well, that's the fucking song, you dipshit.
Yeah. Like, at that point, but the problem is that you really are in a bit of a pickle. I know I said the word pickle, but they were in a bit of a pickle because they wanted to, Limp Bizkit at the time was a big draw card and people are already pissed. So if you say, hey, we're just canceling Limp Bizkit because you guys are about to tear the place down, they're going to tear the place down. So you're really kind of stuck, aren't you? You got to send Limp Bizkit out and say, can you do a Diet Pepsi version of a Limp Bizkit set for us, Fred?
That was a fantastic. That was a fantastic way to include a Limp Bizkit song in that little thing right there by saying "Stuck." That was one of the songs they played at Woodstock. That's stuck. Great. Come on, man! You don't know this shit. So anyway, really quick,
that was a $3 bill, yo.
Yeah,
right? Is that $3? But yeah, I don't know. No one cares about that record.
What are you doing?
Eyewitnesses.
Oh! Fuck you, sir. Counterfeit? Come on!
I just wanted to see what happened.
That's the one with Faith, you son of a bitch. That's a good album, man.
Didn't make it to Australia, man.
Yeah.
First thing we heard was Nookie.
Move closer.
Is it my turn, or can I talk now? Eyewitnesses claim to have seen a crowd surfing woman pulled down into the crowd and gang raped during Limp Bizkit's set. A volunteer also reported seeing gang rape during the Korn performance. So this was reported during their sets. Is that true?
Well, see, that's what we don't know. Is
right.
It's unclear, but these were some of the claims that were coming out after the fact, and it's crazy hearing that shit could have gone down. So John Shearer, again, he was one of the organizers and promoters. He didn't know what he was getting with the bands that they had booked. Like we'd mentioned before, he didn't know most of these bands, and he still blames Fred Durst. A lot of people would think the promoters. This is what I was talking about before when I had actually worked with, booking shows and concerts and things like that. It's like a lot of people think the promoters should have more knowledge of what they're booking. You'd be surprised how much the people who are putting these things together don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. They don't have a clue about any of this shit. And coincidentally enough, so Korn was kind of like. They're what's known for Friday night, even though Bush still did a really good job. Saturday night, you had Limp Bizkit, but then you still had Rage Against the Machine and Metallica. But in the Netflix documentary, they make the comment, you could tell the crowd was there for Limp Bizkit, which is really weird to say when you got Rage Against the Machine and Metallica coming up. But this was right when, because this was the summer of '99, and this was the summer where Nookie was the fucking song, man. It was, you could not get away from it.
Yeah, it was the peak. It was their year. That was their fucking year.
Yeah. So, and then obviously
100%.
You can see the next one here when it comes to the Netflix documentary.
And the next Netflix documentary completely skips over the fact that Rage Against the Machine and Metallica performed after Limp Bizkit. That's the same thing. Okay, so I'm just reiterating what Brandon said.
Wait, no, because it's they point out that Limp Bizkit was the kind of like the band. But the documentary doesn't even talk about Rage Against the Machine or Metallica. What
I really want to know is what happened to the crowd? What happened to the pandemonium? What happened to the plywood? What happened to the whole situation? for Rage Against the Machine and Metallica?
It just
like,
kinda
what were people actually doing during? They just kept burning it to the ground.
No, well, so there was no burning at this point because remember that didn't happen until Sunday. So obviously,
Sunday,
it
that's
was still pretty fucking crazy. But you still had Rage Against the Machine play, you still had Metallica play. So the documentary for Netflix, the Trainwreck, it's 3 parts, and each part is
each day.
Yeah, it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So they wrap up part 2 with Limp Bizkit essentially, and there's
which
really
is bullshit.
No mention
really
whatsoever.
Bullshit.
Yeah. So then actually no, I take it back. Because I
isn't just as a sidebar, Limp Bizkit before Rage Against the Machine, isn't that putting the cart before the horse?
Why?
Well, fucking, you know how Rage feels about Limp Bizkit. For Rage to be playing right after Limp Bizkit and being like, why are we on the same stage as these people? Like, they hated Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. I mean, they were there and they played, so it couldn't have been that bad.
Gig's a gig, yeah.
So, and actually, I take it back. This is where I can't quite remember how the documentary went, if this was part 2 or part 3, but Saturday night going into Sunday morning, Fatboy Slim played at the Rave Hangar. So to keep the party going all night, they had one of these big old Air Force hangars, which was the Rave Hangar. And no one had really told him of all the shit that was going down and kind of how crazy things had been. He fucking comes out to his set and he starts with a Fatboy Slim is fucking in heaven. Fatboy Slim is fucking in heaven. Fucking and fucking and fucking and fucking. And then that's when the beat drops and like people start going fucking nuts, dude. And it's like, oh, I could only imagine being there because he had not been. I mean, granted, that starting with that song isn't going to be, all of that. I don't think that's going to incite anything really, but the way they bring it up on the Netflix documentary is that he's like, I had no idea, so I just went with my set as normal, and that's the song that he started with.
Yeah, the funny thing is that if you are going to change anyone's set, Fatboy Slim is probably he's going to be a little more receptive to, hey man, can you not play fucking in heaven as you drop a beat that just sounds like, you know what I mean?
Man. That's a good song. I do like that Fatboy Slim.
All right, this is a big paragraph for me, so let's check this out. During his set, someone pulled a van into the middle of the crowd. Someone got to the van, opened the sliding door, and inside it looked like a girl who was probably 14 or 15 years old, completely passed out with her pants down and a guy pulling his pants up. The guy who was driving the van was completely fucked off. People who helped get the van out of the hangar said that the dude was out of it.
Completely fucked up, by the way.
Fucked up. Sorry. See, I can't. It's a little text for me.
Yeah.
So basically,
it was. This is
the guy driving the van was fucked up. That was like eyewitnesses, multiple people.
They got to the van. Like this van just kind of came, and this is a story I had never even heard of. The van got into the hangar, and they said that the dude driving was just
so fucking lit,
like out of it. And then they said when they opened the sliding glass or the sliding door of the van, like it was some shit. And it was in one of those moments like, well, how the fuck do we handle this shit? Because we got to make sure that somebody doesn't use this thing because I mean they truly pulled it into the middle of thousands of fucking people inside this hangar. Yeah. Fucking crazy.
How? So he just drove slowly through the crowd of people and they parted?
Yeah, it's just kind of like going in like this and the people just got the fuck out of the way. So then they got there and then I don't know what happened with the people that were inside, but they got out. And it's funny too because my wife had been asking me as we're watching this footage, she asked she's like, would you ever let our daughter go to something like this? I was like, fuck no. And then we got to that point where that thing happens. I go, that's why. That's why she's never going to shit like that. Like, unless I'm there and we're handcuffed together and I can beat the fuck out of people who try to do anything to her. Yeah. Other than that, sorry. So anyway, Fatboy Slim, he ended up getting rushed out of the hangar because things started to fucking escalate pretty quickly there.
Yeah, and during the Sunday morning press conference, John, how do I say it, Brandon? Scher?
John Scher.
John Scher, do you believe it? Was still trying to spin the narrative. He was still trying to spin the narrative, and all the organizers were basically patting each other on the back seriously.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, no wonder.
In that press conference, the mayor, he was so confident with how everything was going and how amazing it was on Sunday morning that he invited them back. He's like, let's do this again next year.
Oh, God. No way. White men made a lot of money and said, let's just do the whole thing again. No way. No way. Public health took samples of the water that was on site. I don't want to finish this paragraph. Why don't I want to finish this paragraph?
Come on, baby.
By Sunday, when they went to check the samples, the stench was overwhelming. Every sample was contaminated with feces. One woman from the Netflix documentary even got trench mouth. What the fuck is that?
So she's one of the women that they interview in the documentary, and she's like, she had cold sores everywhere, and just it's fucking gross. And this is what. So when you see people from Woodstock '99 that are cool, like swimming in mud, it ain't mud. It's shit. It's poop, because there weren't enough bathrooms. They weren't well maintained, and there were long lines. So they did have the bathrooms. They did have showers for people. They did have the water fountains for people to get to the water. But it wasn't enough for the amount of the crowd. So the frustrations boiled over, and people ended up breaking the pipes. So then it just started to flood everything. And all of the outhouses started to overflow. And so it just became this, and I apologize for anybody who's listening who's completely fucking grossed out, because it's disgusting.
Well, at least you weren't there. Imagine the people that were there.
It was shit. And so as my wife and I are watching this documentary, and we're watching these people run in the mud, it's just like, that's poop.
Jesus. That's poop. Keep going. Come on. Oh, I can't shake it. I can't shake it. I've got the feeling right here.
You get to talk about the Peace Wall next.
Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that you were reading. I thought you were just talking. You're reading the paragraph.
That's how good I am at what I do.
You're right. You're a professional.
Baby.
I started realizing when we started doing the shorts how little credit I had given you for your professionalism with the way that I can't sound like you in the shorts. I can only sound like me, and I've got to anyway. I've got to figure that out. All right.
I'm really
Go
good
to the
at
next
being
sentence.
fake.
Part of the wall for the venue was called the Peace Wall. I don't want to finish this sentence either. We're getting into some gnarly shit. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Rather than just having ugly plywood going up, they painted on it in the style of the original Woodstock. A 100-foot section of this wall ended up being torn down, like the Come on, what's the name of it? It's not the Great Wall of China. It's the one that was the communist one.
The Berlin Wall.
The Berlin Wall. Thank you. Fucking totally spaced.
What are you talking about?
Okay. Anyway, here we go. Here we get to the good bit. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
and also that 100-foot section too is that a lot of the stuff that I was reading at the time wasn't necessarily that people were tearing the wall down to get in. They were tearing the wall down to get the fuck out. Like they were trying to leave. Like we've said. I mean, you said it in the last episode. It was kind of like a prison. Yeah. So the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they were headliners on Sunday. Megadeth was over on the other stage, and they kept teasing something big. In the documentary, they have them on the phone during interviews, like the promoters, saying that we've got something big planned. So the rumors began to fly, where it was going to be Michael Jackson, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, Guns N' Roses, Prince. These were all names that were thrown out. Could you fucking imagine if any of those acts had come out? Imagine Red Hot Chili Peppers wrap up, and fucking Prince comes out there. Holy fuck. Guns N' Roses comes out there. Oh my God! Yeah, none of that should happen.
None of that happened. The big thing that I'm going to say now that was planned was the candlelit vigil during the Chili Peppers set and footage of Jimi Hendrix after they were done.
Yeah,
that's it.
So do you remember how I said that gun violence was going to play a bigger role in Woodstock 99? So that was the whole point behind this candlelight vigil, is that the organizers were going to hand out candles for this candlelit vigil, and that's kind of what led to the fires, obviously, is that they're handing hundreds of thousands of people fucking candles. And it was for a candlelight vigil for gun violence. So that's really one of the things that led to it. And in the Netflix documentary, they talk about how one of the stage managers, he's on the phone, he's like on the walkie-talkie with John Scheer, where he's like, you can't hand out the candles. The fire marshal's not approved it. We can't fucking do this. Yeah. And John Scheer was like, nah, fuck you, I'm gonna do it.
Dude.
Like, I think there's actual, if I remember correctly, because I didn't get this note, but if I remember correctly, there's an actual quote, like live footage of John Scheer basically saying, no, we're going to fucking do it.
Is it in the, oh man. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
dude, I'm telling you, I can't wait till you see the documentary. It's going to be great.
Here's the problem though. I've actually been at one of those things where they hand out candles at a festival. I did one of them once. It's a mind-blowingly beautiful experience to be in an entire field or something with thousands of people holding candles up. Like I did it once at a thing called the Woodford Folk Festival when I was like 19, and I was so high, but it was awesome.
Yeah,
but
read the next part here. Read the next part.
And that's why I'm saying I was about to fucking land. I was doing you. I was leading into it, and you blew it. So it looked pretty cool when they did it at Woodstock, but it quickly turned into bonfires. John Scher, he came out on stage to tell people that this was an issue and that the fire department was coming to put out the fires.
Well, no, they were not. They were not coming out to put out the fires. They told him flat out, we can't get out there safely, so we're not going to do it. And in the documentary, he gets pissed. He's like, fuck you, that's your job. You should go out and put out these fires. And it's like, well, if they can't get out there safely, no, you're the fucking dipshit that handed 100,000 people candles.
Yeah, and I remember, and then this might be in this next section, but I remember one of the things that got played on the news when this happened was a recording of a dude on the radio when the fires started, where the guys that were in charge of security and evac and safety literally just said, fuck it, dude, let it burn. It's all going down. Let's get the fuck out of here. Like once the second tower was set fire to, they just said it's a riot. There's nothing we can do. Just get out. And that was probably right after the fire marshal said we're not coming in. It escalated past the point of control. At which point the Chili Peppers, they came out for their encore. The lead singer Anthony Kiedis commented on the fires, comparing them to Apocalypse Now on the mic. He said that on the microphone.
Oh yeah, and
what?
Dude, check out how this timed out. So I've got my little Rolling Stone trivia here. So this one popped up Monday, August 1st. So 1 week ago from when we're recording this. It'd be like 3 weeks ago from when this episode finally drops. Anthony Kiedis of the Red Hot Chili Peppers compared Woodstock 99 to which film? A, The Wizard of Oz. B, Natural Born Killers. C, Apocalypse Now. Or D, The Deer Hunter. Right there. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Full circle.
But after playing Sir Psycho's Sexy, they went on to play Jimi Hendrix's Fire. That probably didn't calm the crowd down. This apparently, fuck, man, I'm sorry. I just have this visual of like, if you were there and you knew, oh my God, this is about to get crazy. I hope they do some. Can you do something to calm us down? And then they start playing.
Let me stand next to your fire.
I mean, Jesus Christ. That would literally be the moment when the guys were on the microphone saying, get the fuck out, it's all going down. It was apparently not done in a reaction to the fires, but had already been planned, but of course they couldn't change their minds. Kiedis said in his autobiography that Hendrix's sister had asked them to play Fire in honor of Jimmy. Remember, at Woodstock 94, the Chili Peppers made a wardrobe change to Jimi Hendrix's outfit from the original Woodstock. So it is nice in theory, but I think that Jimi Hendrix's sister and Jimi Hendrix's memory might have preferred in that moment to say, you know what? Fuck it. Just play Blood Sugar Sex Magic and get off the fucking stage.
Or what if they were like, okay, so we're going to go into All Along the Watchtower now? Oh, fuck, wait. No.
Yeah.
So after the Chili Peppers, after the Chili Peppers, they started playing footage of Jimi Hendrix, and the crowd, and basically, again, the crowd was expecting something bigger.
Amazing.
They were kind of hoping that there was going to be something after the Chili Peppers, and they just kind of came out and they're like, that's it, see you guys. On stage. They were like, fucking get out of here. And so as the crowd was leaving the east stage, they made their way through the vendor village because that was kind of in the middle of the compound. And that's, you can hear as they're going that direction, you hear the, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Like they started to chant that. And then that's when all hell broke loose.
This is when the looting started and everything really went south. I was going to say, if you're on your way out and you're going past the food trucks, those food trucks are done. It got to the point that propane tanks were exploding in the fires, completely destroying the vendor trucks. So yeah, this is when people were getting hurt.
So by Monday morning, they had an unscheduled press conference. Obviously, the festival was over. They weren't supposed to do a press conference on Monday, but with what happened, they did. The organizers said it was not as bad as people thought. It was just a few bad people that caused the whole thing, and they couldn't, and they continued to deny any blame whatsoever. Because they're being asked questions about, do you think any of this had to do with the prices of the tickets or the price of the stuff inside the venue or the fact that it was fucking hot? And then for them, it's like, it was just a few bad people. Oh, wait till you get the quote from John Scher about the rapes. Holy fuck.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck, just wait. Oh, just wait, buddy.
All right. So that Monday, the rest of the staff showed up to the offices and had to sign NDAs. Very interesting.
And then in one of the shots, kind of at the end, it's somebody had spray painted on a wall, "Listen to Rage, down with profit stock." So now here's my question. Where the fuck did they get spray paint? Where you're inside Woodstock, where the fuck did you get spray paint?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Did anyone ask that in the documentary?
No. See,
you're absolutely right.
I ask the questions that don't get asked.
Listen to Rage, down with profit stock.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, this is fucking, From the promoters and organizers, you hear the word angst as the reason for the riots. Idiots. From the concert goers, you hear the word greed. And sorry, I have to agree with the latter.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like, God, so much of the history of rock, I'm so tired of the word angst at this point. Because when we started with grunge, it was like, it was the angst music, and it was for angsty teens. And it's like, be anything other than just fucking angsty constantly. In a recent interview for the recent interview for the Netflix documentary, Michael Lang was talking about the attendees, and he said, quote, "You can't vet the people that buy your tickets." So again, this happened. The interview happened last year, I believe, because he passed away just a few months after the interview. So Michael Lang passed away just recently. I think it was the beginning of 2022. So but he was still to this day just kind of being like, well, you can't really vet the people that show up, so it's not our fault.
Yeah, so no one wanted to take any accountability. Okay, so now we're gonna get to. I'm gonna struggle with this. I don't know what it says yet, guys. John Scher was talking about the rapes that were reported from Woodstock 99, and his response was basically, with a crowd of 200,000 people, you should expect that many rapes, relating to the size of the festival to a small city. That's fucking shocking. Yep.
Doesn't even require comment. We can just let him stew in that one for a little while. So Carson Daly of MTV, he would talk about the hatred the MTV crew would get from the crowd. Because as much as Korn, Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine were played on MTV, so were Britney Spears, NSYNC, and the Backstreet Boys. The crowd felt this made the entire MTV crew fakes, and certainly let them know it on a regular basis by chanting at them while they were live and throwing stuff at them. There's footage of Carson Daly up on this platform as he's trying to broadcast for MTV, and they're just hurling shit at him.
Jesus.
Yeah, dude.
I don't get. So that's my point. Like, they were just angry. Like, if you put a bunch of fucking people in a hot room and say you can't leave, and then say, "Oh, you'd like a glass of water? It's going to be $7." Eventually, someone's going to stand up out of their chair and say, someone fucking do something.
Fuck you! I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah, like, if you just put people in a room in a regular business, anything. So you put them, it's the same fucking thing, and then you're like, oh, you're surprised that they're upset about one little thing. It's escalated and it's gone insane. From Woodstock 69 to 99, none of the groups that performed at 69 took the stage at 99, but some of the band members did. There were also some misconnections and declined invites. John, how do I say this? John Entwistle of The Who, he performed a solo set. That's true?
At 99, and then you had Mickey Hart, the drummer for the Grateful Dead. He played with his band Planet Drum.
Awesome. Jeff Beck, no way. I didn't know any of this. Jeff Beck of the Yardbirds went 0 for 2. He was scheduled to perform at the original Woodstock with his group, the Jeff Beck group, broke up the week beforehand. That's amazing. He was also invited to play Woodstock 99, but because of a scheduling conflict, he backed out. I have never met Jeff Beck personally. Actually, that's a lie. I did meet him once at a gig, and it was because we had a mutual friend, and I was able to go, "Hey, man, I'm a friend of Robert Knight." And he was, "Oh, yeah, Robert." He is the most chill dude in the world, and I genuinely wonder, would he have been bummed about it? I think a guy like Jeff Beck, who is literally the greatest guitar player in the history of the world, would be like, thank God I didn't go to either of those fucking nightmare shows, because he's a chill dude. He's got he doesn't want to deal with that type of aggravation. Sorry,
no.
But Jeff Beck's amazing. Go ahead.
We want those side stories. That's why people come here. So the Doors, they had rejected an offer to play Woodstock 69, and we talked about this when we were talking about Woodstock 69 with Robbie Krieger, had said that they thought it was just going to be a second-class repeat of the Monterey Pop Festival. Well, he ended up actually showing up at Woodstock 99 with Creed during their set to perform Roadhouse Blues.
That's wow. One of the members of the Doors played with Creed. Those guys are so lucky, man. They got to do everything. Foo Fighters were set to perform, but withdrew to finish work on their album Nothing Left to Lose. Foo Fighters would have been good. That would have been a fun thing to see.
Like,
yeah. Because Nirvana, did Nirvana play 94?
No, because remember, because Kurt passed away earlier that year. He passed away in April, and they were trying to get him because that was also right around the time Lollapalooza was offering up $10 million for Nirvana to come play. So I try to think about who could they get now that would be a great band for a Woodstock type show, and Foo Fighters is like the top of the list for me. Like I think that band would do amazing. Like they would be one of your headliners for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that'll be the encore. We'll talk about who the best. It'll be fun.
So Sugar Ray, they were scheduled to perform, but they backed out because lead singer Mark McGrath became ill.
That wouldn't have gone well. If Sugar Ray was on a Woodstock, they would have gotten stuff thrown at them like the Backstreet Boys for sure. So Trainwreck Woodstock 99.
Because remember, we've talked about this because they were the ones, like their early stuff was way heavier.
Yeah.
It was
it was new metal.
Come my baby, come my baby.
Yeah.
I'm a butterfly.
They were new metal.
Oh wait,
band.
no, that was I've got the wrong fucking song there. God damn it! I was thinking
that was Crazy Town.
Crazy Town.
That was Crazy Town.
Shifty Shell Shock.
Yeah. That band was dope too. I wonder what happened to those guys. I wonder if they still look the same.
He ended up on a bunch of like rehab shows.
Oh, that makes sense. Why does that make sense? Anyway, I was going to say that's a shitty thing to say right there. I'm sorry if you're watching, dude. I have no idea what your name even is.
Shifty Shell Shock.
No, you look like Shifty Shell. He just looks like the sort of dude, like with the rings and the tattoos and the steroided up and then the tiny spiky blonde hair. I'm like, this guy probably has some issues. Wouldn't surprise me if he winds up in rehab. And what do you know? Anyway, Trainwreck Woodstock 99 on Netflix, a 3-part documentary with each part covering one day. Why am I reading this out?
Because it's continued education. So this is where we tell
this is
people,
continued
like, hey,
education?
It says it right above it.
Oh, it's this. Okay, continued education. Trainwreck Woodstock. No, forget it. It's past. It's done.
So obviously that's the one that we've been talking about the most because that's the one that just came out on Netflix. There's also another one called Woodstock 99: Peace, Love, and Rage, which is on HBO. Now this one's interesting because the documentary spends a big chunk of time essentially blaming rich white guys for the problems. Where they're like, well, if you just take a bunch of meathead white kids, what do you think is going to happen? And my brain immediately, I'm like, could you imagine that if anybody said that about another race and a festival and something going wrong and the fucking uproar? And it blows my mind how much time they spent on that. Now, granted, were there a bunch of shitheads? Did they happen to be white? Absolutely. But the way that they patterned it, it was like, oh my God. And they're like specifically pointing the finger at white boys that listen to nu metal. Guilty. Yeah. And there was a YouTuber, Finn McKenty. He brought up a good point because he was watching the trailer for the HBO documentary back before it came out. And he said, well, if this was the case, if it is just, you get a bunch of rich white guys together, you're going to have these fucking problems. Ozfest would always end up like that. Knotfest would always end up like that. Family Values would always end up like that. All of these different festivals would have the same way. And that we know that that's not the case. Yeah. This was clearly with Woodstock 99. As we have gone through sort of the entire weekend, it was a sequence and series of events that built to this. It was not one particular person. It was not one particular thing.
However,
me personally, I would look more at a guy like John Shear, who completely ducks blame, hands fucking candles to a bunch of people, prices the shit out of it, traps people in there, and then he's like, well, it's their fucking fault.
Yeah. The problem is that it's interesting when you think about, I'm going to come into a very interesting point, but there's two types of people in the music business. There are people who look at the music business and go, there's a lot of money to be made if you treat it like a product. If you just treat it like it's laundry detergent or fucking popsicles or fucking Pop-Tarts, lots of money can be made if you just forget the human factor. The problem is, there's a whole bunch of people, like, for example, the people who put on Family Values, Knotfest, probably KLAQ festivals, lots of different types of festivals, even if they're not paying too much attention to like, oh, we're not really concerned with which bands make it on, but they are concerned with making sure there's a good experience for people because They want to have a good experience. They want to be known for putting on something that was fun and good so they can do it the following year. There is a little bit of a legacy to it. They're putting their name on it. There is reasons why they go, well, music is supposed to not be a hellish, horrible, apocalyptic experience. It's supposed to be fun, and it's a good business model. And also, there are a lot of people in the music business that say, well, I want to work on things like that. I want to be involved in music and put on a show where there's enough water, there's enough fucking toilets, there's basic human needs that are fulfilled so everyone has fun. But if you are coming at it as, okay, music makes money, I could either go and sell Pop-Tarts or I could sell tickets. I'll just do the things that sell the most tickets and save as much money on the back end. Then you bring no humanity to the concept of putting on a music festival when music is a vehicle for humanity to connect with one another. You've literally created something where people are not connected. They naturally disconnect from the whole experience because they're just trying to survive. They're just trying to fucking weather the storm and the heat and the food and the shitty people, and this guy's angry and that girl's getting fucked up, and then this band, and then feedback, and then the whole thing. It escalates, but it is, I personally think it's 100%, just for what you've told me, I haven't even seen the documentary yet, it is fucking greed. It is because a couple of guys got together and said, we're going to make as much money with as little expense, it's business, and if people get raped or killed, that's just the cost of doing business. Yeah. And that's why it happened, because it wasn't run by people who care at all about music. They just cared about money. And so I totally agree with people when they say greed was the problem. It was old white greed. It wasn't young, white, stupid new metal kids listening to it. It was old white greed and then everyone else following the fucking breadcrumbs that they left for 3 days until people lost their shit.
Yeah. And like we've kind of at least tried to point out in these past couple episodes, is that it was a full series of events that just led up to the shit that went down. So on that 100%. Note, you go check this stuff out. You can go to YouTube. You can see the performances if you want. Again, like Shim and I have mentioned, it can be a little bit rough, like beginning of Limp Bizkit set, even Korn set, when you get that feedback and stuff. It's just, It's tough. But it's worth fighting through if you want to, because some of this stuff is it's a really good performance. And then you can find, news clips and other kind of things on Woodstock 99. But those are the two big documentaries. Obviously, we get Trainwreck and then Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage. But now we're going to move on to On This Date, which isn't exactly on this date. It's June 1st, 1999, Napster was released.
It's crazy, isn't it? So for anyone who doesn't know, which might actually be quite a few people, Napster was a peer-to-peer file-sharing service that specialized in MP3 files. Peer-to-peer, for anyone that doesn't know, basically means if I've got a computer, Brandon's got a computer, a whole bunch of other people from all around the world, but we're all connected to the internet. Napster is like a little library where you can connect all of your computers to the same thing and go, well, I'm going to share my file to Brandon's computer. And you just kind of like, you open your hard drive to everyone and say, do you want to copy this file? Okay, I want to copy that file. And you're just sharing files back and forth through the internet completely for free. And it's literally the moment. It is very, very important for anyone who thinks like, oh, Napster, whatever. It is the moment when the music industry died. Yep. It's still taking 20 years to, the ripple effects are being felt now. But it was the moment when it went, hey, CDs cost between $10 and $30 in some countries, and now they're free, overnight free. Destroyed an entire business and all the livelihoods of everyone that make records.
And like,
big deal.
It's saying that because they have struggled, because this was the transition from an actual physical copy of this song, whether it's on a CD or a cassette or a piece of vinyl, and now it's just sitting on your computer somewhere. Like, it's not even an actual thing anymore. It's a file that sits on your computer, and the music industry is still trying to figure out how to deal with that, even 20 years later. Because when it comes to streaming numbers, how do you dictate streaming numbers? How does one stream compare to one sold album? Like, if you wanted to listen to Limp Bizkit's Significant Other, you went and bought the album. Now, if you want to listen to something that's new out there, you can go stream a couple of the songs. How does that equate? How do they rank that? And it's one of those things that they're still trying to figure out. But at its peak, Napster had about 80 million registered users.
Yeah, which is actually not. I actually thought it was a lot more. But it was enough to, anyway, we'll go through this. High-speed networks in college dormitories became overloaded with as much as 61% of external network traffic consisting of MP3 file transfers. Because of this, many colleges blocked the use of Napster. Keep in mind, at that time, MP3s were not 2 to 3 megs. They were like 20 to 50 megs for an MP3 before the compression had figured itself out. So it took a long time. Anyway.
So then Metallica, they were the ones that obviously they ended up battling Napster. They discovered a demo of I Disappear on Napster. That's the song that they had on the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack, which led to the song being played on several radio stations before it was even released, and it kind of upset them.
Yeah, and Metallica eventually sued Napster along with Dr. Dre. And I'm sorry, I don't want to go through your sentences, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So you go ahead.
Well, on July 11th, 2011, Napster shut down its entire network in order to comply with an injunction that had been filed because of the lawsuits.
Yes, and Napster tried to convert from the free service to a subscription service, but had difficulty obtaining the licenses for major label music. Did someone say Spotify?
Well,
fucking 20 years later.
And that's where we're at. Now you got Spotify, Apple Music, and there was a time there too where Napster, it was still technically around because they had paired up with Rhapsody. They merged with Rhapsody in 2011, and then in 2016, they actually dropped the Rhapsody brand, and now it's called Napster. I believe it's still around.
So, I did not know that, and the truth be told, I don't think anyone cares. Everyone's on Spotify. No one cares. Why would you pay for, like, seriously, like Napster 1... Fucking Napster 1. Like, well, not Napster. Spotify 1. Napster
You can
died.
listen to those subscription services for free, or you can pay for them. I pay for them just because I don't want the ads and I want better quality music. Because my ears can hear the difference between a song that has a higher, like it's a higher bit rate than one that does not because of the streaming service. And if I was going to use something,
two things.
If I was going to use something for a commercial and I needed to record it, I wanted to make sure I was getting the highest possible quality.
Right. Well, so finally on this thing, Napster would sponsor a tour by Limp Bizkit in the summer of 2000, and we will be covering Limp Bizkit's Significant Other as well as other aspects of the band very soon, which we are very much looking forward to.
Next week. Next fucking week, mate.
There is one interesting thing, which is that I was talking to a friend of mine on the inside of music business stuff. So Spotify... The reason that people probably don't realize is the reason that Spotify blew up is because, as you were saying here, high speed, hold on, let me go back. Napster tried to convert from a free service to a subscription service, had difficulty obtaining the licenses for major label music. Do you know what that most likely means when they say they had difficulty?
Like they couldn't do it?
No, means three things.
Are you trying to be
two to three things
here?
I'm saying major labels were probably overcharging. They were probably saying, oh, well, if you want to get licenses for it, it's going to be a huge amount of money because they were still overvaluing back then and saying, oh, well, no, music is $30 an album. And they're like, dude, it's changed. Like, if you want people to, they're going to have to pay less because it's online. They couldn't put the dots together at major labels. Then finally, I'm just coming back to this, tried to convert from a free to a subscription service, obtaining the licenses. Finally, the second thing that probably would have happened is labels would have said, well, we're going to partner with you. We're not just going to give you a license. We're going to work with you, but really run the show. So Napster didn't do that, clearly, because they didn't fucking sign the deal. But Spotify has a really good deal with the labels. And the reason that the labels and Spotify, and the reason that Spotify is as big as it is because there was Apple Music, there was Amazon, there's a whole bunch of other places that have been able to do this, but Spotify was the first one that literally went to the labels and were like, how do you guys want to run it? We'll give you whatever you want, just give us the music. And so whatever the deal is on the back end, Spotify was most likely the first one that just said, hey, hell, you guys, we won't tell you what to do, you tell us what to do, we'll just be the middleman.
Well, and this is probably why the deal for the artists in regards to something like Spotify is pretty fucking terrible. Because I know you and I have talked about this. I can't remember who it was, but it's a guy that's in a pretty big name band. Not like a band like a Pearl Jam that's got, hundreds of millions of streams or a billion streams out there. But it's a decent band that gets a lot of streams. Yeah. He spends more on his Spotify subscription than he gets in royalties from Spotify.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking crazy.
No, it's not. It's the way that it's been structured, and it's what it is, whatever. But here's the thing that's interesting: we're going to radio stuff now. payola is not covered. The laws that govern payolas
don't
not being allowed to do
shit. Oh, that's
fucking
such a
Spotify
those motherfuckers.
doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to Spotify.
So for anybody who doesn't know what payola is, it's essentially like, let's say I work for a radio station and a guy who has a local burger joint comes to me and he says, "Hey man, can you go?" And this is actually going to be perfect for going into Limp Bizkit when you talk about payola and plugola.
Right.
So this, like, if the guy for the burger joint comes to me and says, or actually no, I take it back. A better example would be a guy in a local band. They have their shirt and they're like, "We'll give you $100 if you go wear our T-shirt when you go up on stage at this festival and do your stage announcements." Yeah. And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I can't do that because everything has to go through the radio station, and because the radio station can't take money for certain things." A record label used to be able to show up with a bag of money and a giant bag of Coke and say, "Play our single," and the radio station's like, "Cool, fucking do it." And that's how that's how it went down. But it's to the point
for
where you
decades.
And Limp Bizkit made news back in the late 90s with the song Counterfeit because they kind of paid for airtime on KUFO, which was the rock station in Portland. Now, coincidentally enough, KUFO, you know what? I'm going to have to reach out to him. So Al Scott was the name of my boss in Eugene. He was the music director for KUFO when they made the deal. And he's talked to me about the deal. He's like, "Yeah," he goes, "I remember sitting down with the record reps at lunch as we brokered the deal." And he goes, "We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't do anything illegal. Like, everything was above board. All the lawyers signed off on it." And because it was
because here's the thing, but we should clarify, payola was made illegal. They basically said you can't just, record labels, you can't just walk in with a bag of Coke and money and then we play what you tell us to play. There has to be another way that you decide what makes it on the radio. But it's not because people request it. It's not based on actual public demand. So the big question is, well, how does what gets played on the radio get decided now that people aren't paying for it, the playtime?
Oh, I can tell you that.
Yeah?
It's all testing. Like it is. It's dictated by, they spend, I mean, shit, I did a short on this. I mean, the radio stations spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to find out what they should play. And there's a lot of different methods. There's methods where they sit people in a room and they play an 8-second hook. That's it. You get 8 seconds. And you get to say whether or not you know the song or you don't know the song. And then you rate the song from like 1 to 5. If enough people say they don't even know the song, they could say, "I don't know it," but they rate it a 5, it's not going to get played. They wanted the stuff that people know. So it doesn't fucking matter if people like the song or the clip that they heard. It's completely whether or not they know the song. I don't want to say completely, but that's a major underlying factor on whether or not something gets played. Is that song recognizable? Like, obviously, when it comes to new music or new music stations, you're not really dealing with that because that's a different animal. But then they would do that. And I remember that we do call-outs where you would call out to people on the phone. And I was the production director that would piece together these hooks of the songs. And I was always told, make sure when you start it, you're not starting the clip with like a heavy downbeat, or you're not starting with something that's too abrasive, because if you do that, the person's they're gonna jerk away and they're gonna be like, "Nope, click, don't like it." So you had to make sure that, and it wasn't it wasn't necessarily to dictate what they liked and they didn't like. We just wanted to make sure that everything was kind of on a level playing field. So they would vote on that stuff, and then essentially all that stuff comes through, and that's the playlist. That's that radio station's playlist.
And that's what they play, and that's it. And that's why they say, why does the radio station play the same stuff over and over again? That's why.
And to go back to what you're saying about Spotify with the payola and plugola and stuff like that, it's not illegal for Spotify. They can take as much fucking money as they want. So if you're ever listening...
If they did. Not saying that they do, but what the point is that the laws that were applied to payola... They were written for radio, for public broadcast, and Spotify is an internet streaming service, so it's not a public performance. So the laws that apply to radio don't apply to Spotify. And any law that may come up that says, well, you can't just pay to get your song on a playlist, those laws probably won't come to pass for another 5 to 10 years. Yeah. So the question becomes, who decides what's on these playlists, and what is the compensation?
And the other thing too, like we can't just throw Spotify under the bus. Like, I love Spotify. I use Spotify.
Not at all.
The service. It's streaming services in general. It's the music streaming services that we're talking about that don't have this payola law that's in effect, because radio stations have to abide by that law. I'd have to sign it. It was like every year, you'd get this giant fucking thing of paperwork that's basically like you got to sign this to say that you're not going to do payola or plugola, and you're not going to accept money or go do things that legally you cannot do.
Yeah.
So, and it's not coming from the radio station. It's a legal thing. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, so let's wrap that up. Let's get to the encore. Fuck, man. Way too long. Look at an hour. Man.
Sorry. We could chop this into half and make this part the encore.
No,
It'd be better if this was the encore.
All right, start it right now. Wrap it up, and we're right into it.
I almost don't want it to end because I've had such a good time doing fucking Woodstock, and I can't wait to do Limp Bizkit very, very soon.
Oh, don't worry.
All right. Thank you for listening.
So hold on.
Go ahead.
We're gonna do Limp Bizkit, but we're also gonna start diving into like Ozfest, because Ozfest is a big one. Because remember, Ozfest started because Ozzy Osbourne got denied going on Lollapalooza. They were like, he's not really the music that we like.
Yeah. That's going to be a good one. That is going to be a good one.
Sharon Osbourne was like, fuck you, I'm doing Ozfest.
Yeah.
And they did.
Fucking A.
All right.
Go ahead, hit the like and subscribe. Thank you very much to everyone for hanging out. Go, you right there? Or you're about to pass out. And go and sign up for investorshare.com if you have any interest in learning about how to make money in the crypto space. That is my company that I own and run. So go and check it out. And in the meantime, we'll see you next week for the History of Rock. His name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He's a rock star. Class dismissed. And then the music kicks in, and then we're like, pew, and then we're like, oh, now we're in the encore, and now we can talk about what bands you think would actually make a good Woodstock right now. I still think Foo Fighters.
Well, if you got to pick your own headliner for a festival that you were putting on. This is what we used to do in the band all the time when we were starting out.
This would be a pretty cool. So I remember I had an assignment when I was in college, and I can't remember what the specific assignment was, but I did like a fake concert promo, and it was all about, these bands are coming to town. It was called the Slapnuts Tour, 2003. And, God, who was it that we had? There was Korn, Edema, Tool. Like, it was just this insane lineup. The bands that were fucking huge in 2003. And I remember I played my demo for Dave Newmy, who was the program director of KUFO at the time. And I remember him kind of sitting there, and he chuckles and he goes, how much money do you have for this concert? Like, because his brain being the program director, he's immediately going to, fuck, that band cost this much, that band cost this much, that band. See, and that was always the cool thing, like working with Kevin at KLAQ and stuff, is that he would kind of keep me in the loop on how much certain bands were asking and how much it was going to cost for a certain show and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of things that people don't quite understand go into the planning. Because first of all, if they're throwing a street fest, generally you need to get bands that are in the vicinity on a tour already. Like, they need to kind of stop by. You can't just be like, hey, just fucking ship on in for this one and then go fuck off. Yeah. Like, you need to kind of be already in the vicinity. Like, we did that with your tour when you came through El Paso, and we were trying to, we were like, okay, so we went to Abilene, right? We sent you to Abilene first, and then you shipped on over to El Paso, and then you guys hit the road and hoofed it to California.
It's a lot of planning that usually happens months in advance. That's why they book all these shows 6 months in advance, and they go, okay, who's out in 6 months over this 1 week period? Who's going to be within a 200-mile radius, and how can we figure it out? And it's a massive undertaking. So yeah, I can totally, but I don't think I know any bands that have come out in the last 10 years that I would go, yeah, that one. It'll all be like bands from.
I wasn't just going with like bands from the last 10 years, because I was thinking that like Foo Fighters was the first one that popped into my head. For some random reason, Godsmack just popped into my head.
Yeah, they'd be a great headliner.
They would be a great one, especially how they've sort of transitioned their sound a little bit to where they're almost just more straight up rock and roll band. Like, I love their new stuff. I think that they would be. I think they would be a great act to play. Papa Roach. Could you imagine going on after them at a Woodstock? Could you imagine them at fucking 99 when shit's going berserk and Jacoby's up there just fucking...
Yeah, that would have been... He would have had a blast. He would have had a very good time.
Fuck.
I think that was right before. Linkin Park and P. Roach. Like, they came out the following year or something. That was like
2001 was when those bands really started to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think... dude, who would I pick, though? Like, in terms of... headliners. Oh, well, the first thing I would do is I'd bring back Silverchair. 100%. I'd bring back Silverchair to play, for sure. What if even though most people would be like, dude, you can pick anyone. I'm like, yeah, I'm picking him. Fuck it. Anyway,
Well, I'm trying to think of because you put the stipulation of the last 10 years, and I'm trying to think.
well, no, but
of,
here's the thing: if there was any band, the only band that I can think of that I'd be like, "Yep, I'm gonna fucking would be Bring Me the Horizon." A band that's really come up in the last 10 years, where it's like, "Yep, they should headline. That they're gonna be great. I love the music, all the good stuff." That's the only band that really is like a hard rock band that could probably. I can't think of any other fucking hard rock bands that you could say like, "Yeah, you can headline a big ass festival." Falling in Reverse is starting to really come up in terms of like that, like you've been around for a long time.
I was gonna say,
I love their new stuff.
Are you talking about bands that are like have made it big in just the past 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bands that like they've been around since maybe 2005 or whatever, but like every band, they need that has enough records where you could say like Foo Fighters and Muse and Tool, and like they've been around long enough where there's a legacy, so to speak, right? Where they're leaving a legacy. And I think, I think Bring Me the Horizon is the only one that I can think of where you can really go like, yeah, that's some international stuff. They've really created their own sound. They've really, Falling in Reverse is coming up. I love their new stuff, or his new stuff, however you put it. But, other than that, and I Prevail's good, but they're not as long as, they haven't been around as long crushing it.
Somebody had just posted this on Reddit about a year ago. It said, who are the best new rock bands of the last 10 years? And I mean, I would agree with something like the Pretty Reckless. They would be fantastic.
They'd be amazing, but they've been around since. I guess they have been around since.
Well, think about when she was in the goddamn Grinch.
Yeah. You're right.
Cindy Lou Who, man. This other person also put Greta Van Fleet, which I mean, if you're not going to get Zeppelin, you might as well get Greta Van Fleet out there. Oh, and Dirty Honey. I kind of forgot about Dirty Honey. They were very Guns N' Roses.
I wouldn't put them in there. That's just me, though.
Well,
sorry to all the Dirty Honey fans.
Somebody else also put here the Glorious Sons, which I liked. Royal Blood, which I like. I mean, these are bands that here's one I think. Oh shit! Here's actually two that came to El Paso and I missed their show.
Which
Ghost and Volbeat.
Yeah, I wouldn't put those. They're not bad bands, but we're talking about up with Guns N' Roses. Foo Fighters, Rage Against the Machine, Korn.
Bands, these are bands that I would put on the bill. Like,
you put them on the bill.
I don't know if I would have any of these bands close. Like, I don't think that they would wrap things up. Although Ghost would be fucking cool with a crowd that big.
Do you like Ghost?
Ghost, dude. I like them.
I got mad respect for the guy, but I can't get into the music. It's not for me.
See, I kind of dig it. I dig it. But Volbeat, I fucking love too. Which is funny because when I first heard Volbeat, I was like, I don't really like it. Like, I really wasn't the biggest fan. And then even when I hear people now, like, oh, the music sounds the same. And I do that douchey, like, well, you're not hearing what I'm hearing. No, I'm kidding. I don't do that. I can actually, I understand what they're saying. But no, I fucking, dude, Volbeat all day, every day, baby. You kidding me?
All day, every day?
All day,
Is it like, whenever I try to explain Volbeat to someone, I always say, imagine if Metallica had Elvis Presley as the lead singer.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. With a little more country in it. It's more rockabilly. It's kind of what I would.
And a saxophone, a little saxophone action rocking in the latest single.
Fuck yeah, man.
That was very Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should probably wrap this thing up because it's fucking late, mate. So
yeah, mate. Thank you for your time, brother.
Well, next week we'll be sure to. I'll hopefully have Limp Bizkit done, and we'll do another. We'll keep pounding away on those remix episodes, and then we'll keep the shorts going. So for anybody here who's still around for this this encore, it's interesting to see where the social medias are at. So I've been putting more effort into my own personal social medias recently because I'm not with Original Gamer Life anymore. I learned a lot by being able to run their YouTube and social media channels. And I'm starting, like right now here on August 8th, I'm starting to see kind of the fruition of my work where I had just done this video. It was the short about how apparently Eminem died in 2006. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to my YouTube channel. And it got 2,300 views in an hour, which right now is pretty good. So I'm wondering when this drops in 2 weeks' time, am I looking at my YouTube channel being like, God, 2,300 is a down hour. Like, that's not as much. Like, is it going to keep going like that? Or is this going to fucking level up? I'm like, God, I wish I could get 2,300 views in a day, So it's going to be interesting to see how all this stuff
find out.
But yeah, thank you, everybody. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, brother.
Tell the family I said hi.
Always.
And tell your kid his kicks are awesome, man.
Yeah, man, he's going to be. Actually, I got to get out there, and I told him I was coming out in a minute, and then we did 2 more episodes. All right. I love you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Bye.
All right, bye.